Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your lunch break. We begin the final part of our program with a keynote titled AI for Human Potential, Responsible Innovation at Scale. This address will consider how artificial intelligence can serve human creativity and agency while protecting children's and families' intellectual property, freedom of expression, and the ethical principles required for responsible innovation at scale. Please welcome Ali Attar, Senior Account Executive and Technology Strategist at Microsoft Egypt. So please give him a warm welcome to the stage.
Thank you all for joining. Once again, I'm Ali Attar. I have the pleasure of taking the afternoon session. I know it's just past lunch. We might need to be a bit more energetic, so thank you all for joining and thank you for sticking around. The discussion today is going to be focused on how AI works in the flow of for human ambition, or in the flow of human ambition, and not vice versa, or not blocking or putting humans at risk. I'll focus more from, let's say, an enterprise approach as an initial undertaking of the idea of innovating with AI responsibly and how to enable it. And then I'll take a more broader approach in my discussion. So when we start off with AI, in Microsoft, we have this approach of becoming frontier. So to become frontier is to be on the edge, to innovate with AI, to have AI baked in the operating model. So all of this is part of a success framework that Microsoft and others are focusing on reinventing to become frontier. So from a frontier point of view, what does this mean? It basically across 4 pillars. The first one is how to enrich or to improve the employee experience. How do I make sure that every employee, when he comes into the office, he's enabled and he's at his most productive best, and there is, let's say, a happiness index that's in the positive or trending positively, as opposed to the idea of feeling overwhelmed, feeling stressed, not being able to personally develop. So all of this falls under the category of the employee experience. Moving from there is, how do I reinvent the customer experience? So from a customer experience point of view, it could be, if I'm a business, it could be my customers. So for example, if I'm a bank, it could be my retail or SME customers. If I'm a government agency, it could be my citizens. So how do I interact with my customers with AI in a way that's both responsible, but at the same time, it gives them access to products or services that could have not been there if it weren't for AI. The third one, which is my personal best, is reshaping business processes. Business processes, they're there to kind of dictate how work should get done, but how work should get done and how it actually gets done are 2 very different concepts, or like as we see them on the ground, they become very, very different. So in terms of the potential of AI for transforming business processes, it's massive. It can help us with understanding what processes need to be there, how to map them, how to shape them, and then once processes are running, how to measure them, and measure them in a way that doesn't require a large undertaking. It could be done, let's say, with a smaller team or with a team enabled with AI. And then once that process is running, how does AI help within that process? So you will see AI being introduced at different parts of the process, something to help with document processing, something to help with let's say, a speech model or a vision model. So these can all fit there. But the fourth way of business processes changing is the idea of agents, AI agents. How many of you have heard about AI agents before today? And to people that learned more about it today, still raise of hands? Okay, sounds good. So before I get into the impact of agents, let me kind of briefly introduce what's the difference between traditional AI, generative AI, and agentic AI, or AI with agents. So with traditional AI, we call it now a bit of narrow AI. Like a model that can do a task, and it can do a task well, but it's suited for one functionality. So that functionality could be, like I was just mentioning, the idea of extracting text from a scanned document. So this is something called the vision model. If it's translating or moving the speech that I'm saying into text, so kind of like a dictation, that's a speech-to-text model. These are examples of narrow models that serve a specific function, and it does that well. However, with the advent of generative AI or large language models, we have models that can do all of the capabilities that the narrow models can do, all combined into one model. So, for example, if you open up your Copilot application or ChatGPT application or Claude application, as you're having that discussion, that same model is able to do text summary, is able to use vision, is able to move the text that's written into speech. So it does all of that, and it does that pretty well. As generative AI models or large language models became very successful, we started going into reasoning models. So what reasoning models, the difference between a normal model and a reasoning model is a reasoning model gets the task and puts a plan of action on how to solve that task. So as models became more and more, let's say, better or having better quality, it started planning out how it needs to respond to the user request. There was a big gap. The gap was there because the model now has a plan, but maybe it doesn't have all the answers. It needs to bring out the answers from something like the web. It needs to bring out the answers from a database. It needs to take actions in order to reach the desired user outcome. So this is where agents came in. Basically, it's an AI that you can delegate a task to, and that task, in terms of execution, can be done using tools. So that tool could be a retrieval, it could be taking action, it could be making payments. So all of that became available once AI agents became available. So that's the third pillar, which is the business processes. And I said it's my favorite, and I took a bit more time with it, but this is where a lot of the change is happening. And I'm going to focus on, in the rest of the presentation, how to do this responsibly. The fourth pillar, and I believe all of the panelists before me went into a lot more detail, is how to innovate with AI and how to innovate responsibly and how to create, let's say, new products, new ways of solving problems using AI. So that's the fourth pillar. But in order to do this, it needs to be done on a layer of both intelligence and trust. And what we mean here with intelligence is the idea of it needs to understand the context. So the context of the data, the context of where, how an organization reaches their domain knowledge. So this is the intelligence layer. The trust layer is equally important, is both on two fronts. The first front is, how do I trust the outputs that are coming out from the AI? Is it trustworthy? Is it something I can take decisions on? But at the same time, it has to do with my responsibility towards my community or my organizations. Is now I have this data and I can work with customers' data. Am I respecting their privacy? Did they opt in for something like this, or did they not? So all of this becomes more and more important as you're using AI at scale with potential customer or citizens' data. The consent needs to be there. And this is where the trust layer is built on our principles of responsible AI. These principles are industry-wide. We as Microsoft, we've had the pleasure of working with organizations and shaping them across the world. But we just touched upon one of them, which is privacy. The other one that's equally important is also security. Like with AI, the ability of AI models to do a lot more work poses bigger threats. So how do we make sure we mitigate these threats in the systems that we use on a day-to-day basis? A third one could be accountability, and we'll get into a bit more detail on the different ways of managing accountability with AI in order to use it responsibly. Another one could be fairness. How do I make sure that the model outputs, they don't have inherent bias in them? So this is another area, again, to consider when using AI or when deploying AI at scale. So in terms of looking forward, there are two ways to look forward. The first piece is, how do I make sure every employee, for example, in my organization, is able to become frontier or is able to operate at scale? The second one is, how do I provide them with an AI platform that's trusted, that would respect the policies that are put in place? That, for example, in terms of if it's operating in Egypt, does it follow Egypt's new data protection law? So all of these factors need to be in place if we're going to do this at scale. So I'll pause here just to shift gears a little bit into a survey, a global survey that we do called the Microsoft Work Trend Index. Basically, it's we take trillions of anonymized productivity data, and we interview over 20,000 AI users in order to reach this this annual survey. This survey is done with collaboration with LinkedIn. So our latest survey was released in May, and it's around this time frame that we release one every year. Basically, the focus now has been, how has the workplace been transformed with AI? And the counterintuitive approach is, when agents came into organizations, they were viewed as a big threat to the employees or the human workers that are in the organization. The trend actually found something different, is that when agents are able to execute securely at scale, what ends up happening is that human agency improves. What do I mean by human agency? Is that as employees, they're able to do a lot more tasks. They're able to analyze and reason over data a lot better, so they can take more, let's say, informed decisions as they go in the day-to-day. It can help them produce work. I think everybody's emails right now have perfect formatting, which wasn't the case, I want to say, a year or two ago. In terms of enabling collaboration. So, for example, a lot of our meetings now, as internally, a lot of them are recorded and transcribed, and I can easily catch up on the meetings, on my action items, as a way of even interacting with the meeting participants if I'm not there. We've seen some applications having digital agents kind of joining on a user's behalf. So that's a new way of interacting with other people in my organization or other agents. The next piece, which I wanted to kind of dig deep into, is the four modes of dealing with AI. So right now, when we talked about agents, we talked about agents that I can delegate a task to. So I can tell it what's the business outcome I want to reach, and accordingly, the task gets delegated and it gets executed on. So in terms of autonomy, the agent can do a lot of work. Does this mean that the agent is accountable? Again, the human or that's managing the agent needs to be accountable for the agent's actions. So that's one of the key areas. If we're going to use agents at scale responsibly, it needs to be there. Another approach is, it's just an asking approach. I need to reach certain data. I need to understand a certain concept. This is another way of interacting where a human, again, decides what actions need to be there, and vice versa. The third pillar, if we move over to the right here, is collaboration. So what does it mean to collaborate with an AI agent? So an AI agent can suggest actions and can start taking actions in an organization based on certain parameters. So for example, if we're talking about warehousing, if a certain stock level goes below a certain threshold, an AI agent could actually go and source that for the company. I'm running low on stock X. what vendors are available in the local market, what kind of pricing. It can negotiate pricing, and it can collaborate in terms of reaching that desired outcome. So again, this is where human supervision is there. It's not directed by a human. The AI is more autonomous. However, a human needs to be there because a human needs to supervise the action. The fourth piece, which again could be in terms of exploration. I want to understand, let's say, a new market that I'm about to venture into. What products do I have that will help there, and how to explore that market, or help me come up with new products to help go into that market, for example. So that's the fourth way of dealing with AI as an assistant. We're also seeing another interesting topic is that we're seeing a lot of agents being available and for people to use. And one of the key indicators that we're looking at right now is the human to agent ratio. So IDC has a prediction that in 2028, we would have around 1.3 billion agents running 24/7. So in terms of the trend or the increase of the use of agents within organizations is exponentially getting bigger. And humans are, instead of having a ratio of a human to an AI assistant, we're seeing organizations having one human managing a team of 15 or up to 20 agents. And that's across the board. So that's the first interesting way of looking at things. The second one is with regards, again, to how agents are running in the world. You would think that most of the internet traffic right now is by us clicking through our mobile phones, chatting or browsing or using the systems. However, for the first time in human history, over 50% of the internet's traffic right now is not by humans, it's by AI agents. So in terms of how do you secure agents as they're going around, and how do I make sure that my agents aren't compromised when they're running on the web, or they're potentially giving up sensitive data. So one of the areas that we're seeing a lot of the payment industry moving into is the use of AI agents for payments. So agents can buy things on our behalf. So what does this mean? What does it mean to secure it? Can it be compromised? So all of these areas, they need to be taken into consideration if we're going to use AI agents to make buying decisions on our behalf. So this is another key area also to consider. So if we're going to talk about, let's say, we as individuals, what we're doing on the ground, it's now the onus is on leaders. So what do leaders need to do? So leaders, like we found that leaders, they need to change how we think about work. And how we think about how to get through a day at the job. So in terms of the leadership capability is right now, how the industry is shaping is we used to always have organizational structures that are a kind of like a pyramid shape in most organizations. We're seeing that shape move into more of an hourglass shape, is leaders at the top, human workers at the bottom, and a thinner middle management layer, and AI agents running side by side across these three pillars. That's one approach. The other approach is we stop thinking about organizations as an org structure, but think of organizations as a work structure. What processes or what work needs to get done, and what's the best way of getting that job done? So again, this is a new way of thinking about what it means for me as an organization and how to go from there. So the third pillar is organizations are learning. This is not an end goal. People haven't figured that out. Everybody's figuring it out as we go. So we need to be able to make sure that organizations right now are accepting AI, are working with AI, and they're deploying AI responsibly. And so that's either from a commercial point of view or from a public space point of view. So one of the key factors of driving AI adoptions we found is that the organization's AI culture is above all else. If employees feel that their organization is set up for AI, this has the biggest impact on the AI's potential in the organization, and it has the best impact in terms of talent retention, talent acquisition, and development. And that AI-ready culture and AI-ready mindset is what makes the difference, as opposed to just the tool. I've been in countless projects where the tool is there and it does amazing things, but because of a lack of empowerment, a lack of awareness, or change management that wasn't put in place, the project failed. Although it was, for example, a very it's a potential tool that can really transform how our organization can work. But because the factors around the organization and culture and the responsible use were not there from the get-go, these projects ultimately failed. So driving this, let's say, top-down, bottom-up, becomes very, very important in order for organizations to learn what's going to be their new operating model when they start using AI responsibly. I'll close with a statement, and then we can open the floor for questions if anybody wants to have any questions. It's important for leaders right now to take control and to build a place where it enables their employees that are AI savvy more than they think to be ready for AI and to be able to embed AI responsibly across the chain, and to be able to use human judgment in order to actually get work done and to get work done in the flow of human work. So this is the end of what I wanted to share with you. If anybody has any questions, any comments, things that agree or disagree, please let me know. Happy to take any final questions. Okay. Thank you very much for your time. It's a pleasure.